Thank you. Somebody can applaud for me. Thank you. Thank you. If anybody is hurt, oh, what? Well, he's got a camera pointed at me, so I can't really move.
Yeah, well, I'm going to move. Everybody chill.
So, what's going? Well, I don't know. Where am I going to go?
This is going to be a lot better.
Stand in the center and walk in a circle.
Stand in the center and walk in a circle. You need me to move? Just pace around in circles. Don't step on me. I won't be able to like effectively.
Well, you just move around a little.
Yeah, I want to be circling around a little.
You'll move around a little.
Well, I don't know what he's
He
doing.
doesn't have to have your every
You need every inch of me. I have no idea what they're seeing. I don't know. Hi. My name is Janet Kuypers, if you haven't heard it from before. I am a literary magazine editor and I run things with Scars Publications. John, I believe we've got a couple chapbooks of the material in here we can give away to people. If you want to rifle through there and find them, I've got 4 copies of them. Feel free. One has to go to Kathleen, yes.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, I get to distribute?
Sure.
I get to distribute. Yeah. Now I'm gonna just. Oh, he's like, okay, one. Are they sharing or something grouping or? I don't know what. I usually read a lot of poems in different places. I've been known for a long time for reading stuff, and I keep reading the same thing. So I just went and looked for like the oddest, strangest pieces. None of them relate to each other at all. Usually I do shows and everything relates to each other somehow. Theme-wise, there is no theme. Everything just changes. I've just got a bunch of odd pieces together here. So, forgive me for a lack of continuity in my poems. But this first one, just a short one called, I wish I knew somebody called Alexi. I should know somebody. Alexi. Alexi. She was the type of woman who loved the thrill of the chase and the risk of adventure. Her favorite fruit was the forbidden. I'm not good and I'm not bad. I'm Alexi. But when she set her sights, she knew it would be an uphill climb. But she loved the battle, and that made Alexi more appealing. Sure was. Yo, Alexi! Yeah, Alexi! This one, I know some people will understand. I was in a near-fatal car accident. And actually,
oh man, I'll never forget that car accident.
well,
So hard.
neither will I. Do you want to think about this? It happened 10 years and 2 days ago. It was July 11th of '98 where I almost died. Had to relearn how to walk and talk and eat, and I was in outpatient therapy, and I wrote a bunch of pieces because, you know, people,
turned out.
I worked. I'm okay. But this is just one of the pieces of many, many that I would write because, you know, no one wants to listen to a girl rambling on when she's sick and in a hospital. So this one is called A New Patient. I'm here in outpatient therapy after surviving a near-fatal car accident. I've relearned how to walk and talk and eat, but there are some here that still struggle with the most basic of tasks. There's a child here who uses a color pack of crayons with this coloring book. I don't know how many colors are in the pack of crayons. They're not Crayola, that much I've gathered. The boy is with his mother, and the mom seems to have a better grasp of the English language than the average adult. Does the mother or a son have a patient here? I haven't heard of any new patients. This little boy can speak well and walk. That's important for little boys, to be able to walk and talk well. I wonder if the average patient here learns to walk, or dress, or talk, or learn, or eat. I learned that while I was still in the hospital, but this is just something that I wonder about periodically. I don't usually interact with other patients, so I'm forced to wonder about these things from time to time.
Oh man.
Right. Thank you. As I said, they go from one theme to another one, and I've got a humorous one here. Back to high school days when I worked at an ice cream parlor. All the boys worked I was working the candy counter this one day at the Plush Horse. It's called Cashews, and yes, there is a bad word in here. I replaced it with a non-bad word. You can guess which bad word it should be when it comes there. You'll get it. This is called cashews. Once, I was working behind the candy counter, and Matt came up behind me while I was serving this customer, a young guy ordering a pound of cashews. He was a heavy-set guy, the customer, that is, and Matt was thin and quite the womanizer at the ripe old age of 16. Well, even though I wasn't dating anyone, Matt walked right up behind me while I was serving this customer, and he whispered in my ear, "Do me till I bleed." And then he walked away. I stood there, candy scoop in hand, staring for a brief moment. I was sure that this customer heard the remarks, so I finally just said, "Oh, the people I work with," trying to hide my blushing and finish scooping the cashews. My goofy stories. Thank you. And it's also bad, I can't turn around and look at the face and see more. I thought this was a fascinating story. Someone else told me this story, and it's called Catching a Muscovy. You'll find out. Like, what's a Muscovy?
I was going to say,
What's a Muscovy? It's vaguely mentioned here. One year, Doc Wiggins decided he wanted to shoot one of the Muscovy ducks and have it for Thanksgiving. As far as ducks go, the Muscovies are pretty ugly. The males look something like turkeys. And in southwest Florida, in this heavily populated area, they are so used to people that they'll just walk up to you expecting food. Well, one year, bless his heart, Doc Wiggins decided he wanted to shoot one for Thanksgiving dinner. So I taught him how to use my rifle, and we went to a nearby lake. Then Doc started to worry. "Oh, what if my bullet ricochets out the water and hits something else?" And he was in a bit of a panic, trying to figure out what to do. So I told him to just sit tight a minute. And sure enough, a Muscovy walked right up to him and looked at him. So Doc looked at me, then the duck, and just picked it up and brought it home. Don't have to use a gun or anything. It's like, well, what the hell? I'll just pick it up and take it home. Thanks. And I had to include one that was related to feminine issues because I've worked as an acquaintance rape workshop facilitator for years. I would often hear stories about people dealing with acquaintance rape in their lives, so it's been quite ingrained in my head in dealing with sexism and women's issues. This is quite the raunchy, rude piece, but I'm going to include one just because I've done this all these years. This is called A Man Calls a Woman. Every time a man calls a woman a babe, he tells her he thinks of her as a child. Every time a man calls a woman a fox, he tells her she is supposed to be treated like an animal. Every time a man calls a woman a honey, he tells her that she's meant to be consumed. Every time a man calls a woman a doll, he tells her she's something to be played with. Every time a man calls a woman a bag, he tells her that she's something to be used. Every time a man refers to a woman as a screw, all he's saying is what he'd do to her. Every time a man calls a woman a girl, he tells her that she can't think like an adult, and of course, shouldn't be treated like one. Every time a man calls a woman a whore, he tells her she's wrong for having sex. Every time a man calls a woman a lay, he tells her she's no good on her feet. Every time a man calls a woman anything other than a woman, he tells her who's the boss. So, yes, we all know who the boss is, boys. You've done such a good job of telling us. Woo! I'm running late, but thank you. And for anybody who may know, my mother passed away, and so whenever I have anything written about stories about my mom, I just find them so endearing. I've got this really, really short thing here called Changing the Locks.
When did your mother pass away, Janet?
Less than 2 years ago, but she...
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Now I'll just go into it. She had leukemia after 10 years after having breast cancer and cervical cancer, had a perfect recovery, but they said, well, with that much cancer in your history, you're likely to get leukemia, which she did, and it was a particularly virulent strain, and she was an angel, but she couldn't fight it after needed her University of Chicago chemo a couple rounds. So she. Thank you. And I don't want it. That's not meant to make people sad. So I have a bunch of really cute little. When I first heard of my mom getting sick, I started putting little pieces together like this. They're just cute little stories, like changing the locks. And the children got older, borrowed the car, or got picked up by friends to go out. And when one was leaving, Mom would joke around and say that she was going to change the locks. Or Mom and Dad were going to move away and leave no forwarding address. But they never did, though. They were always there. Aww. Like cute little stories. Thank you. So now I'm going to go back further into childhood. I've got a series of poems. This one, I think this is a cute one for some reason, called Childhood Memories 5. I was in the 5th grade, and I had Mr. Roop for spelling and English. He was a great teacher, but there was something I will never forget from his class. You see, he had this honors spelling class team called the Tough 10, and every once in a while we had to learn hard words, and one time we had to learn the word pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanconiosis. It is a form of black lung disease, pretty much. It's the longest word in the English language, the second largest word in the world, and I can still spell that stupid word today after all these years. But when he would be giving us weekly spelling tests, he would say a word, then use it in a sentence. And whenever the word doctor came up, he would say the word and then recite the lyrics. Doctor, doctor, give me the news. I've got a bad case of... And then he would all get embarrassed and laugh, and he wouldn't be able to say, lovin' you, like the rest of the line. And we'd all laugh too, write the word down and wait for him attentively to say the next word. So, childhood memories 5. All my little stories.
Sounds like a fun guy.
It was fun. I mean, if I could actually remember to say how to spell pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanconiosis. And when I get online to dictionaries, I'm like, dictionary.com, I'm like, haha, I'm going to type this in and see if it has it. It's like, oh, they do, check that out. Sorry, stupid. This is a poem that I wrote with Dave Jerby, rest his soul, called Climbing Trees. We both wrote parts of it, put this together. If I didn't climb trees, I'd wish for a tree house so that I could see the world from a different view, so I could feel like I have conquered. Big trees, more fun, that's what I'd think. But when I'd get about to the height of our roof, our garage, as a matter of fact, then the fear would set in. And not the fear of falling from where I was, but of going higher. But what was too high? One of my coworkers decided one day that he wasn't going to try anymore. That no one cared if he did a good job, so he just wouldn't bother. And I thought, your coworkers shouldn't be the scale you judge yourself on. You should be your scale. You should be trying because you need to know that you can be better than what you are. And then I thought, maybe he never climbed trees. And I said that these aren't in a series or cohesively in any sort of group. This is not like the last poem, but I wrote that poem with Dave Jerby, who died of a heart attack while I was traveling around the country and I couldn't see him, and I wrote this about him. So this actually got sort of ties together, I guess. So this is called Conscious of It. Only when I'm conscious of it, only sometimes, I think of you as still alive. I couldn't make it to your funeral at the other side of the country, but maybe I should have made it to your funeral. Maybe I should have seen your body. Maybe I should have just seen the color of your skin, or if I looked hard enough, the needle marks near your lips that they used to keep your mouth together. Maybe I needed to see these things. But I don't know if I was ready. I still don't know if I'm ready. If I had gone, maybe I wouldn't have so much to say to you. And maybe I wouldn't expect you to come back. Maybe then I wouldn't want to touch your face and feel your skin. Maybe it would be easier that way.
Thank you, Janet.
Well, here I go changing my gears again. Would we hear stories from other people? This was a story from a police officer. I love this story. It's called False Suicide. A woman called the station once, said, "My daughter has been depressed lately, and she's been talking about killing herself. And she's an early riser, and she hasn't returned any of my calls. Could you go over there? I'm afraid something terrible has happened." So we said we'd go there, and we got in a squad car and went to the woman's house. All the doors were locked, and we started looking through the windows, and I saw her on the bed, stark naked, with her tongue sticking out, quite dead looking. And now this is kind of strange, because you women usually commit suicide dressed well. In all my years, I ain't never seen a woman commit suicide naked. Well, my partner kicked in the front door with one kick, and we went back to the bedroom. And I was going to her hand to see if rigor mortis had set in yet, if she was cold, if she was stiff. And when I grabbed her hand, she jumped up and screamed. And then she saw another police officer, and she started to calm down. And we said, your mother thought that you might have killed yourself. She said you were an early riser. All she said was, "Damn mother," under her breath. This is a piece that is called Hiding Vices. Only one here where I mention religion at all. This is based on a quote from John Leroy Coffin, where he said, "The way I see it, the Bible is so popular because of its many confusions, in which it is possible to hide any vice or combination of vices." I met a man once who told me that he prayed to God every night. Now, I knew better. He was no Christian, maybe born one, maybe baptized, but I knew he had notches on his bedpost. So I asked him how he could justify being a Christian and having sex before marriage. And he said, "It doesn't say in the Bible you can't have sex before marriage." And so I checked, and the closest thing I could find was, "Thou shalt keep thy marriage bed pure." And I wondered who misconstrued the words first. This piece is called Pocket Knife. Only I had my... that'd probably be a weapon, and they'd probably pull me away for having my Swiss Army knife. Anyway. I saw you there, dancing, throwing around the floor like another one of your toys. I had to pull out my army knife and slit your face. I had to watch the blood streaming from your open wounds at the same speed as the apologies that parted from your lips. It was almost hard to keep up with your show, but I must admit, it was good entertainment. And you know, I couldn't help but notice that your pocket knife was bigger than the one that I bought for myself. An extra blade or two, a bigger pair of tweezers. And you were so proud of your little gadgets, and you were so sure that it was a better pocket knife. But I couldn't help but think that not only does mine do the job, but it does the job well. And because you never use yours, it's all just a waste. Alright, let me see if I can do the appropriate smile for this one. This is a poem called Quite Happy Looking. This smile I made for myself. Do you see it? I made it out of clay, and I shaped it to be quite happy looking. I parted the lips and curled up the edges. I even polished the teeth. It looks real. It was a very good-looking smile, but not even the clay I shaped and molded can last forever. And now the sides curl down, and the clay looks tired from holding this pose. I'm not fooling you anymore, am I? This is one of the most bizarre pieces I've ever written, I think. I don't know what possessed me to do this one. But leaves. Oh, let me help you. I say, let me hold this bag for you. You've grown so much. You're doing all the hard work now, and every year there seems to be more and more leaves. It's too much for your father to do. Too many leaves. Why does there seem to be more leaves this year? They almost cover all of our windows now. Next year you won't even be able to see our house anymore. The leaves will take over. It'll be like our house was never even there. Too many leaves. Won't you help us, my son? You're so good.
I get tired of that one.
That's an odd piece. This one is called Twin, and it's dedicated to Eugene. They tell me when I was born 2 months premature, the first of twins. They tell me it was difficult, my birth. I still can't hear in one ear, and I have an indentation in my chest on the right side where they had to run a tube in me to keep me alive. They tell me they kept Diane alive for 3 weeks, but she just couldn't survive. I wonder what it would have been like to have someone look just like me. We could switch places, fool everyone. We'd be inseparable. My family doesn't talk about her much, but sometimes I still think of her. Maybe with the medical world today, she would still be alive. Sometimes I feel like I'm not whole. This one is called Masquerade. You asked me to the masquerade, and I willingly complied, but I'm tired of wearing this dress, for the feathers in my costume won't stop licking my face, and you can't see the tears falling behind my mask. When you see the price they pay, I'm sure you'll come and join the masquerade, you say. But the price is too high, for I don't want to wear a mask with you, and I would only hope that I don't have to. Alright, I don't know how long I've been, I'll probably be too long, but I have 2 left. This one, self-explanatory, is called They Called It Trust. Do you remember when it was 1:30 a.m. one rainy night and you asked me what I wanted to do? I told you that I wanted to take a bottle of champagne, climb onto the roof of your house, and toast in the pouring rain. You asked me why I said that. I just shrugged my shoulders flippantly and said it was something to do. But I was testing you. I was afraid to ask if you would follow me when I told you to trust me. And that is why I trusted you when you poured the champagne and kissed my wet skin.
Hey!
The last one, I left this one for last because anybody who's a writer, creative writer, might relate to this at all. This one's called They Tried. They tried to hold me down. They tried to keep me in. They didn't understand. I was different, they said, as day after day I led my life with the interrogation lamp shining in my face. They tried to change me. They tried to bend my will. They wanted to break me. We don't like you, they said. But every day I faced the battle in splendid silence, knowing that all like me would understand me and thank me. They tried to make me beg. They tried to make me cry. They tried to make me to conform. We don't need your type, they said. And I ignored them, for I couldn't let those who didn't understand and didn't want to learn or respect or treat me as human destroy me.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for everything. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
And, oh, if anybody cares, I should have actually said something about this. I have a number of books published, and I usually will just bring a couple if people wanted larger copies. I've got a large 25-year